At 38, Michael Torres had everything he thought he wanted: a six-figure salary, a respected position at a Seattle tech company, the corner office everyone envied. But every morning, he woke up feeling like he was suffocating. 3 years ago, he did something most people called insane. He sold almost everything he owned, left his $140,000 a year job, and moved to Thailand with just $15,000 in savings and no backup plan. His parents thought he'd lost his mind. His friends gave him 6 months before he'd come crawling back, broke and embarrassed. Today, Michael runs a remote consulting business, making $90,000 a year. He lives in a beautiful apartment in Chiang Mai for $600 a month. He works 25 hours a week and spends his weekends hiking mountains, exploring temples, and eating incredible food that costs less than a Seattle sandwich. He has the freedom everyone dreams about. But there's something Michael never mentions in his Instagram posts. Something that keeps him awake at 3 a.m., staring at his phone. Something that makes him wonder if the price of freedom was higher than he ever imagined. If you want more true stories of bold decisions and the people who risk everything to reinvent their lives, subscribe now so you never miss the next leap. Michael's life in Seattle looked perfect from the outside. Senior product manager at a rapidly growing tech startup. Stock options that could be worth something someday. A salary that put him in the top 10% of earners in the city. He had the title, the compensation package, the LinkedIn profile that made old college friends jealous. But he was working 60 to 70-hour weeks, sitting in back-to-back meetings that could have been emails, managing a team of people he didn't respect, building products he didn't believe in, for a company whose mission statement he couldn't even remember. Every Sunday night, he'd feel his chest tighten as he thought about Monday morning. Every Friday, he'd tell himself just one more year, and then he'd quit. But one more year kept turning into another year, and another. His girlfriend of 3 years, Sarah, had ended things 6 months earlier. She said he'd become a stranger who only talks about work and complains about being tired. She wasn't wrong. Michael couldn't remember the last time he'd done something just for fun. His friendships had evaporated. The guys he used to play basketball with on weekends, he'd canceled so many times they stopped inviting him. His college roommate got married in Portland. Michael skipped it because he had a critical deadline. Most weekends, he'd wake up at 2 p.m. on Saturday after sleeping 14 hours, try and recover from the week. He'd order delivery, watch Netflix, and feel nothing. Sunday would come, and the dread would start all over again. His doctor had started asking questions about his mental health, suggesting he might benefit from talking to someone and maybe trying antidepressants. Michael would nod and say he'd think about it, but he never did. At 38, he'd saved $87,000. It felt like a lot. It felt substantial. It also felt completely meaningless. He'd look at that number in his savings account and think, this is what I traded my entire 30s for? Late at night, when he couldn't sleep, he'd do the math. If he was lucky, he had maybe 40 good years left. 40 years before his body started breaking down, before his mind slowed, before all the things he wanted to do became things he used to want to do. Was he really going to spend those 40 years like this? In a job that paid well but made him miserable? In a city where it rained 9 months a year, and a one-bedroom apartment cost $2,500? Around people who measured success by job titles and how much their company was worth, he'd started researching, reading blogs written by people who'd left everything. Digital nomads working from Bali, families traveling the world with their kids, retirees living in Portugal on a fraction of what they'd spend in the U.S., entrepreneurs who'd moved to Mexico and started businesses. They all had one thing in common. They'd taken the leap, and according to their stories, their lives were better for it. Michael would read these stories at his desk, in between Slack messages and Zoom calls, and wonder, what would it take for me to actually do this? The moment that changed everything came on a Tuesday morning in March. Michael woke up at 6 a.m. like he always did. But this time, something was wrong. His chest hurt, sharp pain, radiating down his left arm. He tried to breathe deeply, thinking maybe he'd slept wrong, but the pain got worse. His heart was racing. His hands were shaking. He thought, this is it. I'm having a heart attack at 38. He called an Uber to the ER. They ran every test imaginable. EKG, blood work, chest x-rays. His heart was fine. It wasn't a heart attack. It was a panic attack. The ER doctor, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes, sat down next to him and said, "Your body is trying to tell you something. The question is, are you listening?" Michael nodded, but he didn't know what to say. She continued, "You're 38 years old and having panic attacks severe enough to send you to the ER. That's not normal. Something in your life needs to change." That night, Michael couldn't sleep. He sat at his kitchen table with his laptop and started doing the math. Real math, not the fantasy version he'd entertained before. He researched the cost of living in Chiang Mai, Thailand, a city he'd read about dozens of times. Rent for a nice one-bedroom apartment, $500 to $700 a month. Food, $300 a month if you ate well. Gym membership, $30. Health insurance for foreigners, $150. Utilities, transportation, everything else, another $300. Total monthly expenses, $1,500. Maybe $1,800 if he wanted to live really comfortably. His savings, $87,000. If he could survive on $1,800 a month, his savings would last 4 years. For years to figure out how to make money remotely. For years to build something. For years to try. But the real calculation wasn't financial. It was existential. If he stayed in Seattle, another 10, maybe 20 years of this life. Maybe he'd get promoted to VP eventually. Maybe the stock options would vest and be worth something. Maybe it would all be worth it. Or maybe he'd be 50, burned out, divorced, with a heart condition, and a savings account he never got to enjoy. If he left, no guarantees. No safety net. No plan B. He could fail spectacularly. He could run out of money, run out of options, and have to come back in a year, humiliated, but at least he'd know. He sat there until 4 a.m., staring at spreadsheets, and then he made the decision. 2 weeks later, he walked into his manager's office and gave notice. His manager, Brad, actually laughed. "You're kidding, right? You're having a rough patch. Take a week off. Go to Hawaii or something." Michael said, "I'm not kidding. I'm moving to Thailand." Brad's face changed. "Thailand? For what? Did you get another offer?" "No, I'm just leaving." The confusion on Brad's face was almost funny. People didn't just leave good jobs without another job lined up. That wasn't how it worked. Michael's parents were worse. When he told them over the phone, his mother went silent for a full 30 seconds. Then she said, "Are you having some kind of breakdown? Do you need help?" His father was more direct. "This is the stupidest thing you've ever done. You're throwing your career away." They didn't speak to him for a month. His friends were a mix of concerned and condescending. "You're running away. You'll be back in 6 months. What are you to do for money? This is a quarter-life crisis, man. Just take a vacation." Nobody understood. Or maybe they did understand, and that's what scared them. Michael spent the next 6 weeks selling or giving away everything he owned. Furniture on Craigslist, clothes to Goodwill, books, kitchen stuff, his car, everything that didn't fit in 2 suitcases. Every item he sold felt like shedding weight. By the time April came, he owned almost nothing, and he felt lighter than he had in years. On a gray, rainy Seattle morning, he took an Uber to the airport, one-way ticket to Bangkok, $15,000 in his checking account. No plan beyond, figured out. As the plane took off and Seattle disappeared beneath the clouds, Michael felt 2 things simultaneously: pure terror, and the first spark of hope he'd felt in years. The first month in Thailand was the hardest month of Michael's life. He landed in Bangkok at 11 p.m., exhausted and disoriented. The heat hit him like a wall when he stepped outside. The noise, the traffic, the complete sensory overload of a city that never sleeps. He took a taxi to a cheap hotel he'd booked online and collapsed on the bed. The next morning, He woke up at 4 a.m. Jet lag. He sat in his tiny hotel room and thought, what the hell have I done? Everything was different. The food, the language, the way people communicated, the complete absence of anything familiar. He'd read all the blog posts about embracing the adventure and getting out of your comfort zone. But nobody mentioned how terrified it feels to be completely alone in a place where you don't speak the language and don't know a single person. After a week in Bangkok, he took a bus to Chiang Mai. He'd read it was better for foreigners, calmer, cheaper, a good base for digital nomads. He found a small apartment for $550 a month, 1 bedroom, basic furniture, a decent internet connection. It was fine, but fine didn't make him feel less alone. He started trying to build a routine. Wake up, go to a cafe, open his laptop, look for work. He'd reach out to his network back in Seattle, former colleagues, clients he'd worked with, anyone who might need remote consulting. Most people didn't respond. The ones who did were polite, but clear. We're really looking for someone in the office. Maybe in the future. Good luck with your adventure. Nobody was hiring a guy who'd quit his job to move to Thailand. The math started getting scary. Month 1, $14,200 left after rent, food, and basic expenses. Month 2, $12,800. Month 3, $11,300. He was spending $1,500 to $1,800 a month just existing, and he wasn't making a dollar. The panic attacks came back, worse than before. He'd be sitting in a cafe, surrounded by other foreigners laughing and working on their laptops, and his chest would tighten. He'd have to leave, walk outside, try to breathe. They all figured it out, he'd think. Why can't I? His mother called every week. When are you done with this phase? Have you thought about coming home? Your old company is hiring. I saw it on LinkedIn. His father sent him articles. Tech market rebounds. Great time to look for jobs. 10 signs you made the wrong career move. Michael would read them and feel sick. Meanwhile, his former colleagues were thriving. Promotions, bonuses, new titles. They'd post on LinkedIn about their success. Michael would scroll through those posts late at night and feel like he'd made the biggest mistake of his life. Month 4 was rock bottom. $9,800 left in savings. He'd landed one consulting gig, a small project for a startup in Austin. It paid $2,000. It took 3 weeks of work. He did the math. At this rate, he had maybe 6 months before he'd have to admit defeat. 6 months before he'd have to buy a ticket back to Seattle, move into his parents' basement, and endure the I told you so from everyone who doubted him. He started browsing flights, just to see. $890 for a one-way ticket to Seattle. He'd stare at that number and feel the weight of failure pressing down on him. One afternoon, he went to Wat Phra That Doi Suthep, a temple in the mountains outside Chiang Mai. He sat there watching monks meditate. Tourists take photos, people praying. And he thought, they found peace. I'm just burning through my life, savings in a country where I don't belong. That night, he drafted an email to his old manager asking if there were any openings. He didn't send it, but he saved it in his drafts, just in case. Month 5 brought a conversation that changed everything. Michael was working at a co-working space called Pun Space. He'd started going there because working alone in his apartment was driving him insane. He was sitting at a long communal table, staring at his laptop, when another American sat down next to him. Mid-40s, relaxed, confident. They made small talk. His name was David. He'd been in Chiang Mai for 3 years. He ran a remote marketing agency serving clients in the U.S. Michael, desperate and a little embarrassed, asked, "How'd you find clients?" David smiled. "You want the real answer or the bullshit answer?" "Real answer." David leaned back. "I stopped looking for jobs. I started solving problems." He explained his approach. "Most people try to sell their time. Hire me. I'll work for you. That's a hard sell when you're 8,000 miles away and nobody knows you." Instead, David identified small and medium businesses in the U.S. that were struggling with something specific. lead generation, email marketing, social media advertising. He'd reach out with a simple message. I noticed you're struggling with X. I can solve that problem. Here's how. Let me do it on a trial basis. If it works, we keep going. If it doesn't, you owe me nothing. He wasn't selling his time. He was solving their headaches. And he charged for outcomes, not hours. Once you solve one problem, they refer you to other people. That's how you build a client base remotely. Michael took notes like his life depended on it, because it did. The next 2 weeks, he did something he'd never done before, aggressive, personalized cold outreach. He identified 50 companies in Seattle's tech scene, startups, mid-sized companies, businesses he understood because he'd worked in that world. He researched each one, found a specific problem they were facing, wrote personalized emails offering to solve that one problem. No generic pitches, no resume attached. Just, I see you're struggling with X. Here's how I'd fix it. Let me prove it. He sent 50 emails over 2 weeks. He got 4 responses. 3 turned into Zoom meetings. 2 turned into projects. One was a 3-week project optimizing a SaaS company's onboarding flow for $1,500. The other was helping a startup rebuild their customer success process for $1,000. Total, $8,500. It wasn't life-changing money, but it was proof. More importantly, he delivered exceptional work. He was hungry. He was motivated. He had something to prove. Both clients were thrilled, and both referred him to other people. By month 7, Michael had 5 active clients. He was billing $7,000 to $8,000 a month. By month 9, he was consistently making $9,000 to $10,000. He raised his rates, turned down projects that didn't fit, started being selective. By month 12, everything had changed. He moved to a nicer apartment, 2 bedrooms, a balcony with a mountain view, a real kitchen, $750 a month. He joined a proper gym, started taking Thai language lessons twice a week, bought a scooter so he could explore on weekends. His savings account, which had dropped to $6,200 at its lowest point, was back up to $11,000 and growing. He sent his parents a screenshot of his income dashboard from the last 3 months. His mother called crying. His father said something Michael never thought he'd hear. I'm sorry I doubted you. Michael started making friends. Real friends. Other expats. Digital nomads. Entrepreneurs. People building location-independent lives. He joined a Sunday hiking group. Started going to a weekly co-working meetup. Met a British woman named Emma, who ran an online education business. They started dating. Life had color again. On weekends, he'd ride his scooter to waterfalls, hike trails in the mountains, explore temples, eat at night markets, sit in cafes, and work for a few hours, then be done. No meetings, no commute, no boss, just him, his laptop, and complete control over his time. For the first time in his adult life, Michael felt like he could breathe. 3 years later, Michael is still in Chiang Mai. His consulting business generates $90,000 a year, sometimes more, depending on the projects. He works 25 to 30 hours a week. He has 8 regular clients and turns down new inquiries constantly. He lives in a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment that costs $600 a month. He has a cleaner who comes twice a week, a gym membership that costs less than a single spin class in Seattle. He eats out whenever he wants. Incredible Thai food for $3. Nice restaurants for $15. His savings are at $43,000, the most money he's ever had. He takes a month off every year to travel. Last year, Japan. This year, Vietnam and Cambodia. He's in a relationship with a woman he genuinely likes. He has a solid group of friends who actually show up for each other. His parents visited last year. They stayed for 2 weeks. His mother admitted, I get it now. I see why you stayed. His father was quieter, but on the last day, he pulled Michael aside and said, You were right. I was wrong. By every measurable metric, Michael's life improved. He makes less money than a Seattle job, but his cost of living dropped 70%. He works half the hours and controls his entire schedule. He's healthier. He sleeps better. He doesn't wake up with dread. He's genuinely happier. If you looked at his Instagram, you'd see exactly that. Photos of mountains, temples, sunsets, friends laughing over dinner, captions about freedom, and living life on your own terms. And all of that is real. But there's something else. Something that doesn't make it into the posts. Something Michael doesn't talk about. 3 of his closest friends from college got married in the last 2 years. Michael didn't go to any of the weddings. Flights were expensive. Timing was bad. He had client deadlines. But the truth is, he could have made it work. He just didn't. And now, when he talks to those friends, there's a distance that wasn't there before. They have lives that don't include him. Inside jokes he doesn't get. Shared experiences he wasn't part of. His nephew was born 6 months ago. His sister's first child. Michael has seen him once. On a screen. For 20 minutes. Last Thanksgiving, he joined his family's dinner via video call. It was 3 a.m. in Thailand. He sat alone in his apartment, laptop open, watching his family laugh and argue and pass dishes around the table. His nieces and nephews running around. His parents looking older than he remembered. Everyone together. And him 8,000 miles away, watching through a screen. When the call ended, he closed his laptop and sat in the dark for an hour. His relationship with Emma ended 4 months ago. She got a job opportunity in London. An incredible opportunity. They tried long distance for 2 months. It didn't work. She's building a life in London now. He's still here. Most of his friends in Chiang Mai are transient. People stay for 6 months, maybe a year, then move on. He's watched dozens of people come and go. There are a few lifers, people who've been here for years. But even with them, there's an unspoken understanding. Everyone's temporary. Nobody's building a permanent life here. They're all just passing through. Every time Michael flies back to Seattle, once, maybe twice a year, it feels stranger. His friends are happy to see him, but their lives have moved on. They have kids, mortgages, routines. They'll meet him for dinner, ask about Thailand, say, "That's so cool," and then talk about their kids' soccer games and their home renovations. He doesn't fit into their lives anymore. He's become the guy who lives in Thailand. Exotic, interesting, separate, not part of the day-to-day, not someone they text randomly or call when something happens. He's a visitor in his own friendships. Last month, Michael was sitting in his apartment at night. His phone was on the table next to him, silent. It was 11 p.m. in Chiang Mai, which meant it was 9 a.m. in Seattle. Everyone he loved was awake, starting their days, and he was alone, finishing his. He picked up his phone and scrolled through his contacts. Hundreds of names. And he realized there was nobody he could call right now who would actually answer. Not because people didn't care, but because he'd built a life so far removed from theirs that the distance had become more than geographic. The freedom he wanted, he got it. The life he built, it's real. But freedom has a price that nobody talks about. Michael doesn't regret his choice. He really doesn't. But some nights, when the apartment is quiet and his phone is silent, and everyone he loves is on the other side of the world, he wonders, did he escape the prison? Or did he just trade one form of loneliness for another? Michael still believes he made the right choice. If you asked him today, would you do it again? He'd say yes without hesitation. But he's learned something that most people don't talk about when they romanticize freedom and following your dreams. Every major decision comes with a cost. Not just money, not just risk. The cost is often invisible. It's the things you don't do, the moments you miss, the people who slowly drift out of your life because you're not there. You can build the life you want, but you can't have everything. Michael gained financial freedom. He gained control over his time. He gained peace of mind and a life that actually feels like his. But he lost proximity to the people he loves most. He lost a casual, everyday connection that makes relationships feel solid. He lost the ability to be there for the moments that matter. And that loss is real. There's no villain in this story. No wrong answer. just trade-offs that nobody prepares you for. The blogs don't tell you about the Thanksgiving dinner you'll watch through a screen. The Instagram posts don't show you sitting alone at 3 a.m. wondering if anyone back home still thinks about you. The success stories don't mention that freedom and loneliness sometimes feel like the same thing. Michael doesn't know what comes next. Maybe he'll stay in Thailand for another 5 years. Maybe he'll move somewhere closer to home. Portugal, Spain, somewhere with a time zone that makes it easier to stay connected. Maybe he'll eventually go back to the U.S., not to the old life, but to something new that lets him be closer to the people who matter. Or maybe this is just what it means to choose a different path. Maybe there's no perfect answer. Maybe every life requires sacrifice. And maybe the best you can do is choose which sacrifices you're willing to make. Michael chose freedom, and he'd choose it again. But he's honest about what it cost him. The life he built is real. The freedom is real. The peace is real. But so is the cost. And that's the part nobody mentions. Because it's easier to post a sunset photo than to admit that sometimes, in the middle of paradise, you feel completely alone. If this story made you think about the choices you're facing, or the ones you've already made, subscribe and share with someone who might be standing at the edge of their own bold leap today. Because the truth is always more complicated than the Instagram post. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is be honest about what your choices really cost.